Welcome back, everybody, to episode number 2 of Just Be with myself, John Emilio, and my partner in crime, Henry Beltra.
It's that time again.
It's that time again. Like we always do, well, as we started last week, we're going to open up with another guided meditation just for a minute, just to try to get everybody in a nice, kind of clear headspace before we start, and to give you a little bit of a portal to that space that we're always talking about. So if you could just take a few deep breaths with me, and I will talk you through this for the next minute or so, and we will go from there. Okay, so if you could just breathe in through your mouth, in through your nose, and out through your mouth, deep breaths. Remember, while we're doing this, we are focusing on our breath, focusing on the lungs filling up. We're focusing on the exhale. Hold it for a second or two at the top of that, breath when we inhale. If your mind goes to anywhere else, just bring it right back to what we're working on. Bring it back, right back to the breath. Allow any thoughts or feelings to kind of just float on by. Again, you could focus on, it was helpful for me in the beginning, extremities. I'd focus on my hands, my fingers, focus on different body parts. You could also do a body scan if you wanted to, where you scan from your feet up to your head, picking a body part every couple of seconds and just focusing on them. Remember, the goal here is not to attain a certain feeling, it's just to practice guiding our attention to where we want it. Just go 2 more breaths in and out. Hold it, and let's exhale that last one. All right. And we are back.
Nice.
So
I want to ask you something.
Oh boy. Yes.
You like that, huh?
Oh boy.
So during that meditation,
Yeah.
if my eyes wander anywhere, is that okay? As long as
You do, so you're saying your eyes were open, an open eye meditation, which is, I do a lot of those. If they wander, yes. So we want to call that a soft focus. So in other words, if you're scanning a room, you're scanning it, but I'd rather you not stop on an object for too long, where you now start to create thought patterns about it.
Okay.
Like that picture on the wall. If I was to stare at it in my basement, and all of a sudden I'm reading what it says on it,
right.
and I'm engaging what I'm reading, and I'm pulling myself away. So what you want to do is a soft focus. So see it, notice it, and you can move on to something else. See it, notice it, and move on to something else. And as you're doing that, you're not creating a story around any of those things, right?
All right, so I can just scan the room, and for example, I'm looking at a microphone, and I'm following your breathing. I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm breathing the way you're saying. But I just happen to be looking at a microphone. I'm not thinking anything about it. I'm just looking at it, and quite frankly, I could be cross-eyed as I'm looking at it because I'm not doing anything to trigger my mind. I'm just looking at an object as opposed to closing my eyes. Is that legit? Is that okay? Is that something that it's working? You're doing fine.
It's whatever. It's honestly, it's
Right.
whatever works for you.
As I'm breathing, I'm not thinking. If that makes sense.
So when you focus on your breath, thought actually does stop, and it's hard for people to realize that in the beginning because then a thought will pop in eventually. But when you're focusing on breath, or when you're focusing on an extremity, you might originally get an image of that in your mind, like, okay, I'm going to focus on my feet right now. And you might get an image of your feet in your mind that show up, but then all of a sudden you start feeling the feeling of your feet. You start feeling like your feet are getting heavier because you're sending all your attention to them thought starts to cease for a little bit there. And that's what I think that's what the biggest point of meditation is to teach you not how to stop thought, stop thought, is how to find that space between thought, because you can't stop a thought from happening. And by the way, the more you try to suppress thought, the more thought you will have. So this has nothing to do with stopping thought from happening. It's about realizing you're the one behind it that's watching the thought. Now you don't need to engage it. So again, that's the whole point of it. But when you focus on your breath, a lot of times you'll notice that your mind kind of goes blank for a second or two there. And that's like a little portal where you could kind of get a glimpse of what's behind it. And then when thoughts do start to pour in, you start to kind of get a little bit better at watching them pass and not going, ooh, squirrel, let me follow the squirrel. Oh, let me follow that one.
Right.
You know?
So as an inexperienced meditator, all right, you like that? As a rookie, inexperienced meditator, I am going to take my walk outside, and I'm going to begin my walk. Am I making a mistake if I put on headphones and I'm about to listen to music?
No.
No.
No, because I go on my walks. I have a playlist I use sometimes. I'll either do I have a playlist with songs like Billy Joel, Cyndi Lauper. I mean, very kind of nothing too upbeat. Like I'm not playing headbanging music in my ears because
you'll get caught up in it.
Well, I think I also just don't enjoy it personally. But I like to listen to a lot. I like to listen to a lot of spa music when I walk because I find it's more nature tones, so it's easier to not have all this noise rattling around in your brain. But if you want to listen to music, you can just be mindful that when you're listening to the music, a lot of times music with words, like songs that'll resonate with you, start bringing up what? Past, history, old memories.
The old flame.
The old flame. No, seriously.
Yeah.
And you'll be walking and you'll be listening to Chicago and, I remember when I was in high school, like now you're getting pulled away from the point of what you're trying to do. So unless you could hear that music and see those memories come up and allow them to be, it could also be a great practice, right? Because that's where our gains are done through that practice.
Yeah.
So even when it's difficult to do it, when it's busier, that's probably where you're honing those skills a little bit more, because now there's more of a resistance for you to have to navigate through. So
that's where the muscle gets stronger.
That's where the muscle. It might not be the most enjoyable. Like if you really want an enjoyable experience when you meditate, I would suggest softer music because it kind of puts you in a serene kind of
mood.
Environment. Yeah, mood. As opposed to maybe something that's going to draw up memories or feelings. Certain music's going to get you more, I say, amped up. But you could use that as an exercise to say, okay, I know this song is going to trigger me to want to think about this because if I listen to Highway to a Danger Zone, I'm a big Top Gun fan. If anybody knows me, I have the word Maverick is one of my license plates on my cars. So if I listen to Highway to the Danger Zone, it automatically takes me back to when I was younger.
Let's
go.
go.
So I could do that now, and I'll listen to it, and I'll try to appreciate the song, and I'll allow whatever wants to fly by, but not get engaged into it, because everybody wants to go down memory lane when that happens. And if that happens, you're getting dragged away from the point of what you're trying to do. So.
And again, as a rookie meditator, would you say that I am? When you get caught staring, you ever do it yourself, or you ever catch somebody just staring? And you're like, "Whoa, what happened?" Like, "Oh, I don't know. I just zoned out for a minute."
Yeah.
Are we looking for that? Because if you think about it, when you're zoned out,
yeah, but you zoned out. Okay, so you could zone out thinking about something also, like going autopilot. So you ever been driving? This is a great one. You're driving on a highway, and all of a sudden, your car's going straight. You're doing 65, 70, whatever. You're flowing with traffic, and for no reason at all of a sudden you come to again and you realize the last 6-7 miles you have no recollection of where you were driving because your mind was thinking about something else, but your body was still driving, paying attention. If something was to happen, it'd bring your attention right back to the present moment. But you kind of thinking about what you're going to do later, or how you got to make this, or whatever that might be, and you've driven 4, 5, 6 miles, and you really have not been paying attention per se, even though your eyes and your mind have been processing, car in middle lane, stay here, keep the speed. but your thought patterns were somewhere else. And all of a sudden you come back and you're like, whoa, did I miss my exit?
You know how much I drive.
Yeah.
That happens to me
So
quite often.
that's the mind taking you and putting you on autopilot. So when you say zone out, are you zoning out that way? Or are you zoning out where you're focusing on something, but you're not engaging with it?
That's
Because
it.
if you're engaged, so I could zone out where someone's like, hello, yo,
Yeah.
see me?
No.
But that's more because you're thinking about your old girlfriend from 30 years ago,
Right,
or you're
no.
thinking about, whatever, some other past history, some other past event, or
Right.
so
No.
there's two ways to look at it.
You got me right. That's the one that you said about the driving. That's pretty much what I mean. Are we looking to get to that state of mind when we meditate? Because isn't the point of meditation to give yourself some space from the ego, for example? Give yourself some space from thoughts. Give yourself some space. Give yourself. It's kind of like, would you say? Remember on our first episode, our pilot episode, we talked about all the different personalities or things inside your head, inside the room that is your head. It's you going into a private room and leaving all those guys outside for a moment,
Yes.
even though you live with them. But for right now, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go inside this private room and just be with myself. I'll come out and I'll tend to all of you later on, but I'm going to go be with myself for a minute. And then in that practice, you learn, hey, I can come in the room, out of the room, in the room, out of the room.
Yeah, sure.
Would you say that that's pretty much meditation?
Yeah, I mean, you want to hone the skill of being able to engage and disengage the mind, kind of when you choose to. And when I say you, I mean and we use words like the watcher, all right, awareness, the person, the essence behind thought, to be able to engage that thought pattern when you choose to, right? Like, this isn't about stopping it. This is about being able to watch it. So yeah, I mean, I would say that's fairly correct. I mean,
And-
you want to be able to.
And ultimately, you're exercising the muscle that's going to help you decipher the difference between being happy and feeling a moment of happiness. And you can enjoy that moment of happiness. Absolutely. You
Yeah.
can feel that and enjoy that moment of happiness, but you're not identifying. You are not happy. You're not Mr. Happy. You're not supposed to walk around happy, 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 happy. And then you just, when you realize, when you come to terms that, oh my God, something sad happened, well, you're also not Mr. Sad either.
No,
Because
yeah,
it's
sure.
a practice of disconnecting yourself from the emotions. So that's why I said, again, I'm a rookie meditator, and I'm also speaking on behalf of average Joe. When I say during the practice of meditation, I think the purpose has to be to practice separating. It's that quietness that I used to talk about. When you say quietness, for me, I interpret it as, hey, right now, everybody needs to be quiet. All of you, happy, sad, anxious, terrorized, all of you are quiet right now. You're taking command of the room, of your head, of your mind, of yourself.
Yes, I mean, just be wary of when you say taking command, because that could also become, you could also create another kind of, I don't want to say personality, but another identification where this one being is saying, I'm in control of everything. The goal is not even to say you're in control of people, it's to just understand that you're noticing the happy feeling or the sad feeling or
Nice.
the anxious feeling because once you start saying, hey, everybody listen to me, all that is another layer of the ego saying, wait, I got it.
So-
John doesn't want to pay attention, or Harvey doesn't want to pay attention to, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm anxious. So I'm going to say, I'm in charge of happy, anxious, sad. And that's just the ego again saying, finding a way to go, I'm going to perch myself up here instead and say, I'm in control of all
The
of
ego
you.
has his hand up my ass
Basically.
and controlling me.
If you allow it to, yeah.
Mhm.
So the ego's always going to want to be the puppeteer. It's always going to want to be the one who's pulling the strings. The goal is to understand and realize that the ego is a false image that we actually have. It's not an entity. It's not something real. We just believe this veil. We believe this story. We believe that this thing exists and is there to try to help us or control what's happening. So the ego will take every opportunity to backdoor. So in OCD, we have something that's called a backdoor spike.
Okay, what is this?
So a backdoor spike is basically where the thought pattern tries to come in through a back door and get you from where you're not paying attention.
Nice.
Right? So that's what it'll do. So, hey, I'm guarding this door. I got you coming from here. And then you feel this in the back of your shoulder.
That's great.
Hi, I'm back here. Son of a bitch.
You never know.
And you're like, where? Oh, I didn't realize it. So the ego will do the same thing. It'll try to backdoor you and say, hey, Henry, I got you. Now you're a spiritual person. No more happiness. You don't want to identify with happiness or sadness or good or bad, and that anxious and this. We got it. We're in control now, Henry. Hey, what do you mean we're in control? Mm-hmm. So once you start having that, once that thought pattern's there, hey, I got this. It's the ego again. That's just the ego saying, finding another layer like spiritual ego. To the person who goes, I've reached enlightenment. I am awesome.
As the kids say, I am him.
I am him, right? And it's like, well, it's called the spiritual ego. When people think, now that person, even if it's coming from a benign place where they're trying to help, but they have this inflated sense of self, they've aligned with being this spiritual person, that is just the ego again. So the ego will take many forms. Unfortunately, people just see it always as the one form, like a Tony Stark kind of guy. If you're a Marvel person, right? Like that, I'm just spews ego at every corner. But that's not what it is, and that's why people fall into the trap, because the ego takes many forms besides that atypical one.
And that's kind of where we left off the last episode. Was I wanted to ask you why, and there's many whys, but why do we have this thing called an ego? Why is it so powerful? Why does it take over our driver's seat in our car? Why does that happen? I mean,
we allow it to, for one. But so it's the ego's evolved over gazillions of years, right? From when the first upright, Homo sapien or caveman was walking around, there was always an alpha in the group, and the alpha was the one with even though they didn't have the language to label it as an ego, but that sense of ego was still there for that alpha, and everybody beneath him would follow the alpha of the group. That alpha was the head of the group, and everybody felt inferior. There was an inferior, even if they couldn't describe it back then because language wasn't evolved yet, obviously, or they were working on however they wanted to communicate with each other. In their form of communication, it was, you're in charge, I'm below you. Mm-hmm. You're the hunter, I'm the gatherer, kind of thing. And that person on top was the person who would have the biggest ego. They would walk with an essence about them that was greater than everybody. So, as we've evolved to be able to speak and write, and we've honed our minds to become this intelligent, computing machine, all that ego has just evolved with it. And now we could put words to it. Now we could put feelings and emotions to it. Now we could put labels to it. So the ego gets more powerful as a tool on our mind, our mind becomes more powerful. The more computing energy that this mind has as it evolves, the ego evolves with it. So the ego, it was a very basic form, maybe a survival instinct.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, back millions of years ago. Now it's become this more of a hindrance than anything else.
Okay, but I think that our minds are still thinking survival.
Yes, so that never doesn't go away. We just interpret it differently nowadays.
No, but it's helpful to understand what's going on, or what could be going on, because it's that much more helpful. I mean, look, there are times where I don't want to feel less than, but my ego has completely convinced me that I am less than, right? And I read, as you know, I read your book, and there was a section of your book that it hit hard. It hit so hard, and it was beautiful. And it was kind of what really, if I wanted to do this podcast on a scale of 1 to 10, if I wanted to do it at a 7, that's good. You feel good.
Yeah.
After reading that part, I wanted to do this as a 10. Solid 10. It's that part where you said, well, here I am, I'm in my journey and I want to help others. And, my ego is telling me, well, who am I? What qualifications do you have to help anybody else? What's your schooling? What's your experience? And you're like, well, I shut it off and I'm just going to help people. That's it.
Yeah.
That's John. It sounds, I'm sure everybody's like, well, yeah, of course. I'm like, no, it's simply profound.
Yeah. Listen, I learned as my journey kind of evolved. I wanted to be this. I had this thought, right? It was a thought, or this insight, I should say, actually, probably better. This insight that I wanted to kind of take the spiritual path and be a spiritual teacher. And then, as I kind of started going down that path, I started having all these. My ego would come in and say, "What qualifications do you have? What makes you a spiritual teacher?" I mean, Eckhart Tolle is a spiritual teacher. Ram Dass was a spiritual teacher. I worked with another spiritual, this guy Alex Mills, who actually was from New Jersey. He's a spiritual teacher. He spent 14 years in a Zen monastery. What have you done? You're a contractor.
Right.
So I was getting these thought patterns. My ego was telling me I was not worthy to be a spiritual teacher until I realized all these voices in my head were neither helpful nor holding me back unless I chose for them to be. And I said, you know what? Whether my mind is telling me I'm worthy of it or not, that's just an interpretation of this machine in my head. I'm going to say, I value doing this. I enjoy this. I have a passion for it. I believe there's benefits for every human being in this.
Yep.
So whether my mind tells me I'm worthy or I'm good enough to do it, I'm going to do it, because if I could reach one person, for me, I've reached 1,000, right?
And I don't want to play faux therapist right now, because I don't. That's not my intention. But I think that the majority of us, when I say the majority of us, I mean everybody, feels at some point they want to do something. They want to try something. It could be something simple as, I've always wanted to start that side business. And then they start thinking about it, and assuming all the hurdles are crossed, right? They have
Correct.
enough money,
Yes.
they have enough contacts, they know where they're going to get the stuff, they know where they're going to. But then they stop, and the ego stops them, because in this case, the ego is negative, not in the sense of positive, meaning I'm not feeling grandiose, I'm feeling the opposite.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not good enough for this, and the ego talks you out of something that could have been such a beautiful experience. But the ego won't let you experience that, because the ego, in my opinion, again, and I don't want to play faux therapist, is protecting you from a fall. It's protecting you from a down. If I'm a high school kid, and when you're in high school, right? Let's go back, even though we're not supposed to go back, but we're gonna go back.
No, you could use past memories to learn from, but
No.
that's what they should be used and then drop.
Right, but
Yeah.
let's go back just for this
Yeah.
example where, I remember being in high school and you're like, oh, she's hot. Yeah, but no, I could never ask her out. And think about it. That was your ego right then, as a little
Telling you you're not good enough.
teeny bopper. Your ego's already at work and honed enough, telling you you're not good enough.
Once you learn how to speak, your ego is there. Once you've honed that skill, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like you think about it and you say, why? So that in this case we're talking about asking a girl out, but your ego is present in everything you do every single day, and he could be there to give you a false impression that you're better than everybody else, and he can give you the false impression that you're the worst that ever lived, and that's atrocious. And if there's a way that we can intervene in that relationship, meaning intervene in that unhealthy relationship between your ego and you, we've done something big.
Well, and that's what the point of all this is to understand that you are this. You can intervene between by just by becoming aware that you are not those thought patterns, right? You become, once you could disidentify from this negative or this positive thought pattern. Everybody thinks you have to think positive. Think positive, think positive, think positive, think positive. Trying to control thoughts to only be positive is exhausting.
Yeah.
It could be thoroughly exhausting to do that, because you're constantly trying to convince yourself of something else and something new and something. Okay, then why this and then why that? It's a pure acceptance that thought patterns are there for the simple fact to be looked at and say, is this thought useful now? So if I want to call this girl, and if I'm a 14-year-old kid listening to this, and I want to call the girl that I like to ask her out on a date, immediately your mind's going to give you pros and cons to everything, because our mind has become this pro and con list creator to everything in life. Pro, why I should, why I shouldn't. That's how our lives have been we've kind of been taught to lead our lives. Do you want to ask this girl out? It's a simple yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something you would want to do? Yes. And you're going to know from a deeper part than just my ego saying, yeah, I'm worthy to go out with her, I'm not. Then make the call. Whether she says yes or no is inconsequential.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, once you could learn to make choices, no matter what your ego is saying for you to or not to do it, you gain a control,
Yes, sir.
a true control that no superior ego or inferior ego could ever give you.
Yes, sir.
Right? You start to be able to choose things for yourself in life that you value or you want to do, no matter what the end result might be. I want to try this because this is something I want to ask her out. Whether she says yes or no doesn't make a difference, because now my next choice that I'm going to have to make, I've already started this exercise of, hey, I hear those thoughts, I hear the pros and cons, but I'm not getting swayed by either one. I'm going to be the one who sees them and makes a conscious decision to either move forward or to not
Yeah.
move forward.
You have power.
Yes, that's where
have
true
power.
choice is where true power comes from. It's
It's almost like
Now-
you're telling me, right? You're telling me that you're telling everybody. You're telling us we have power. We have a say in the matter, is what you're saying.
absolutely.
We have a say in the matter. And the key that unlocks that door is in front of us. It's right there. It's just a matter of practicing how to identify the key, pick it up, open the door, choose to shut it when we choose to shut it. It's incredibly valuable because, look, we're the most obese country in the world, I think. So
Yeah, well,
think about this. If I get rid of my ego, or let's just say, which is another question I have for you, getting rid of the ego, right? If I practice how to control the ego, knock it down, silence it, shut it out,
allow it to be.
allow it to be.
That's how you want it. You don't want to phrase it as control it, knock it down, because now you're getting into a fight with something that does not exist.
Allow it to be. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, hey, I know you're there, but you're gonna be quiet for a minute. I'm gonna listen to you because I have no choice, but I'm not gonna do what you say.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what I feel is the better thing to do. I'm gonna take this experience. I'm gonna take this journey. I'm gonna ask this girl out. Or, in the case of like fitness, everybody goes on some sort of yo-yo diet, and the first 2-3 days are great because you're shedding all this water weight and you're falsely saying, hey, look, and by the way, that's all good because it keeps you going in the right direction.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
then when you see that scale go up a hair for that first day,
It's a great analogy.
the ego jumps in and says, that's it. We're getting fat. That's it. This shit doesn't work. That's it. It's
Have
done.
a cookie. We're
I'm done. You know what? Screw the rest of the week. We'll start on Monday.
but so that is a prime example, because that's something the ego would loves to do, and so the ego isn't around to hurt us. It's not. Its intent is to try to protect
Yeah,
us.
I think the opposite, right?
Yeah, but we don't realize that.
Yeah.
The ego's intent is to try to protect you, but it does it in a very warped way. The same way, and I make this comparison with OCD, people who experience obsessive compulsive disorder, these thought patterns they get are to, in a weird way, protect you.
Yeah,
but
I
it
get
doesn't realize it. It's trying to protect you from a fire that isn't there. It's
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
smoke, which is actually water vapor, and it's screaming fire, 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 but it's just water vapor. There's no actual fire there. And the ego does the same thing. When it feels threatened, I got to protect me. It thinks it's protecting Henry, but it's this false identity that it's created, the ego. I got to protect myself, because Henry doesn't believe. If I can't convince Henry that that he believes in what I'm telling and what I'm saying and what I'm portraying, well, then Henry has no use for me, and I'll start to burn up because he won't feed me anymore. If the ego doesn't get fed energy from either yourself or from engaging another person, it starts to slowly it burns off because you're not feeding the wrong wolf. You ever hear that old saying, make sure to don't feed the wrong wolf, right? Because that's what you would do if you're around somebody who's a very egoic person, and that could be one way or the other, right? Somebody who's very down on themselves or very positive.
Right.
Once you hone that awareness and you found that place where you could watch what's going on in your mind, you'll see that in somebody immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I could be around somebody now, and within 2 minutes, I could feel their egos either trying to engage me in something.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I literally I've gotten to that point where I could feel, I actually feel an energy pulling.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of a sudden out of nowhere, my mind, my thought patterns start to change and become more egoic all of a sudden. Like when I'm around a certain person.
Crazy, yeah?
Other people, when I'm around them, I could feel the opposite, where those thought patterns immediately start to go away. So like if I'm around somebody who's more of a centered person who understands mindfulness and practices it, and for instance, when I'm with you, my egoic thought patterns don't engage automatically because you're not emitting any kind of energy that you're trying to engage me in something. But when I'm around somebody who is like that, I could feel it immediately, and like a defense mode starts to kick in. Now, if you're not aware, you're going to buy into that defense mode, and here we go. Let's have a conversation, right? And we start arguing and complaining and bitching and moaning about everything, as opposed to the other way, where if you have that awareness, even if that person's emitting that energy, eventually theirs is going to start to quiet down because their plug is nothing to their cord is nothing to plug into. You're not giving them an outlet to grab energy from. You're not amplifying that for them. So even in them, it'll quiet down. And that I've noticed if I'm around, even it could be my wife or a friend or a parent, and they seem agitated, and I could feel it, and I'll kind of look at them, and I'll kind of give out, the dog turns its head and looks at somebody like, hey, yeah, something's off, bro. I could feel it, and they're waiting for something. If I don't engage it, it quiets down and disappears. Even in them, it disappears.
Yeah. So you kind of help their ego quiet down a bit.
You be a mirror for them. That's why I always say, you want to help somebody change? Don't tell them to change. Be a mirror for them. Be a reflection of what they are. Let them see themselves in you.
Interesting.
And they'll notice their behaviors, when you're not reacting to them, and you're just saying, well, look, this is what you are. I'm not going to react to it. And they'll have this realization that, hey, wow, this person's not reacting to this energy I'm putting out. And then all of a sudden, that separation kind of pops and happens, and they're like, whoa, why am I acting like this? And that's where it kind of starts, right? And with every time you practice, whether it's meditation or just this awareness or any kind of mindfulness, like that space starts to grow. And the beauty of it all is once you realize it's there, you don't lose that. Now, whether you practice it to allow it to grow or not is a different story. But once you realize that you're not these thought patterns, that doesn't go away anymore. Like you don't lose that initial, wow, I see it.
Yeah. So I think you got to strengthen your muscle so that it's easier to do, and you do it better, and you do it, let's just say it's just an easier thing when your muscle is let's say conditioned.
Conditioned. Yep.
And what you're saying is, once you learn that first muscle movement, it's that little bicep you get for the first 10 curls. You go, oh my God, look at this pump I got. So you're able to identify that. That's that beginner's pump. So ever since, let's say, we've been talking and I've been, let's say, learning and practicing in my own way, right? I'm able to pick up exactly what you just said on other people. But of course, I'm not fully in tune even with myself, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm not as far down the road as you are, but I have enough to sense it. And I can sense it in the other person and myself. So, like, and that's the most important part, is yourself. When you start seeing, I'm I'm in the middle of talking.
And you catching yourself?
I'm in the middle of talking,
And
and,
it went- yeah, it's
and I'm
great.
catching myself, and I'm saying, "Wow!" And you know what? Because it's again,
That
everybody,
awareness is there, and it doesn't go away. It's just it's a matter of making it.
and it's all in your own journey. There is no right or wrong, early or
No,
late.
absolutely not.
It's you're not doing anything. Actually, matter of fact, you're doing things right because you're able to see it. I think I'm happy that I was able to see it. So obviously, I wasn't able to. Let's say, I can't even think of the instance, but something in business where I'm just talking, I'm reacting, and as I'm talking, I'm reacting. I'm like, wait, this is not me. This is him.
Well, that's usually in the beginnings of somebody when they're developing that mindfulness and they're practicing it and they're becoming more aware that they're aware.
Yeah.
Right. So when you become aware that you're aware, in the beginning, you usually catching yourself midstream.
So this
And
is
then,
normal.
yeah, sure it is. And then as you get further along the path or the journey, which way that this is a journey that has no end. There's no destination here. There's no, okay, you got it, you're there. It's a constant, like I said, it's always a constant practice. But the more you go along that journey, the earlier on you start to become aware that you're aware in a conversation or an interaction. When we're alone, it's easier for us to watch our thoughts and not engage them. When we're with somebody else, and this is where kind of family and relationships come into play, and sometimes if you're around really toxic people, it could be harder in the beginning to kind of get a footing on this because they pull you constantly, pull you in, and they engage your ego. So, but yeah, as you become aware that you're aware, in time, you start catching yourself earlier and earlier and earlier. And then you get to the point where you don't see it. You're aware so early of what's going on in your mind and other people around you, and you can sense people's energy, that you just start to be able to, before even the conversation starts, just disconnect and be like, there's nothing for us to discuss here, so
Yeah.
I have no answer, because you're not looking for an answer. You might be looking for an argument.
As
right
you
now.
said, I'm not giving you the outlet for you to plug in.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to amplify what's happening in you right now. And your goal in that is, your goal, I guess that's probably the best word to use, is you're trying to show that person
Mm-hmm.
there's no, be like this, not like that. You want them to see the way you're reacting and not the way you're responding to something and not reacting to it.
Because what is the benefit? Like we have to take a hardcore example of, again, going back to the couple that talks about the other couple. Do you really want to be that kind of couple? Like, is that what we do as a couple? We talk about other couples?
Ego will make you believe so.
Right?
The ego's actually going to convince you it's going to feel good to do it, isn't it? Isn't it
Yeah.
going to feel good right now to say that?
It's like-
it would, right?
I think back, easily. So me and my wife go out to dinner, and we're sitting at the table, and we look over and go, oh my God, they look like they don't go together. Because look at, she's like a 10, like the guy must be rich. He's like a fat slob. Look at him. And you start to develop this crap, and you're talking some shit, and you're like, what's going on here? And that whole storyline is just to make yourself, or to say your ego is talking to you. Say, let me tell you something about us. We're good. We're
Yeah,
so
no,
perfect.
That's just the ego finding ways to inject itself. And look, complaining and gossip are two of the biggest pitfalls.
Yeah.
Biggest pitfalls of somebody who's trying to get on this mindfulness journey. Huge pitfalls, because I've had instances with people in my family when I'm listening to their conversations, and I'll bring it up to them. I go, do we realize that for the last half hour you've all been talking and you've done nothing but complain about something?
Yeah.
I said, has any of our conversations had a benefit to resolving an issue, not a problem? Problems are made in our mind. An issue is something that's happening. A problem is a story we make about an issue. I was like, have we resolved any issues? No. So then what have we accomplished? We've just bantered back and forth about why things are horrible and why this is that, and it doesn't make anybody feel any better. It's negative energy. And you know what the response I get is, well, what are we going to talk about?
Ugh.
I said, so we need to complain for the sake of conversing.
Ugh.
I'm like, that is, I mean,
Vapid.
yeah,
It's so-
that's. That's so
Void.
it's unhealthy on every level.
You're devoid of
People are scared of silence.
Yeah.
They're scared of this.
Yeah.
I got to put words in here. We got to say something. Did you see what Tommy said about Joan? I mean,
What she said?
exactly. I mean, it's like it's like, come on. I mean, but again, you kind of got to get there. So when people are doing that, maybe you try to bring it to their attention in a and listen, and how you approach it's also important. Like I try to explain that I'm not trying to talk negative about what you're doing. I'm trying to show you, hey, listen, you're all getting upset, faces are turning red, you're all bitching and moaning about things. I go, but have we resolved anything? No.
Yeah, that's the key.
If we want to have a discussion about an issue, like I'm not a big talker nowadays, but if you want to have a discussion about an issue, I'll sit here and discuss an issue with you, try to come to a resolution, try to find out what where the pitfalls of this situation might be, but not from a point of view where I'm right and you're wrong. Not
Yeah.
from a point of view where it has to be my way, not your way, or their way, not their way. Like it's if you want to discuss even economics, we can have a discussion about economics, but not a discussion where economics then turns into parties and turns into left versus right and my way versus your way and their way. No, because now we're just aligning ourselves and identifying with this, and there's no chance that we're going to meet in the middle at this point. And that's where they complain, they bitch, they moan, but the issue is never resolved. So you try to bring that kind of enlightenment to them, be like, you want to talk about something, we can, but if you're going to just start complaining about an issue, we're not resolving anything. So I choose silence over complaining.
Yep.
Unless I can have a beneficial,
And that's the reason.
point of view to something.
And that's the reason we're here. It's the reason we're here is to improve upon our lives, improve our daily experience. We want to have a pleasurable experience. We don't want to sit there and fester about gossipy and about how screwed up that was. And I mean, there's a part of us that instinctually wants to do it because that's the way we were programmed. And if you think about it,
Absolutely.
if I think about my mother, John, I mean, she loved me to no end. But
Absolutely.
That's what she did. She complained and she bitched and she gossiped.
I think that's just a older mentality that's how they were.
Yeah,
That's
of
how they
course.
were. They were miserably happy for some reason. They were happy being miserable.
There you go.
They were happy being miserable.
There you go.
And I never understood that. I'm like, how about you just are? You don't have to be happy. You don't have to be miserable. You could just be.
Yeah, just be.
Just be.
What a novel concept.
What a novel concept.
So,
No.
We've gone long,
We've gone long today, but
this is great. If you ask me,
yeah.
we scratched the surface.
Yeah, listen. Listen. I'll say this for the two people who might be listening to this. If you have any, if there's ever any topics that anybody wants to talk about, on the Facebook I have the page set up for Just Be, and if you're following it and you're hearing, if there's anything you'd like to or a question you'd like to ask that you maybe want addressed, we'd be definitely open to that. Because as we do this and as we speak, a lot of times questions are going to arise in you, and that's the point of this. The point is for you to, it's okay to question in your mind and question the things that we're saying, because we're not trying to tell you this is how it has to be. We're just trying to show you this is what is, and this is how the mind tends to work, and then we allow you to kind of make your own interpretations on things. But if you have any questions that arise, by all means, post them,
Yeah.
or if you want to text us directly, that's fine too.
Yep.
And we'd be more than happy to kind of speak to them.
Yeah, and
if they pertain to what we're doing.
Yeah, John, and just as a quick wrap up, again, thank you for the messages. Thank you for the shares. Thank you. It just means we're reaching somebody, and there's a few people that reached out to us that I've never spoken much to or deeply to,
Yeah, no.
and yet
Something
there's
resonated.
something there.
Yeah, something resonated in them to say, "Hey, great job!" Like
There's something there.
the couple people reached out to us who I've been posting things on Instagram under Accept This Moment for 6 years now. I've been on Facebook for probably a better part of 2 years under my name, and I created a group called Accept This Moment also on Facebook. And I post a lot of try to post daily stuff, and they're mostly quotes and stuff like that, or an excerpt from my book that's going to be coming out soon. And people will like it. Maybe you get a comment here or there, but I think when people hear us speak about it, more questions arise, because like you said, people reached out who, saying, hey, that's great, that you put yourselves out there. This is a big topic where people just don't want to talk about. So it's nice to see that they're hearing it, and it's kind of resonating with them on maybe a level where a post and a bunch of words on a post where they're great. They really did. A message isn't brought across with them. I think if you're already there, those messages make more sense. But if you're not, if you haven't experienced this or looked at life with this different perspective, I think a lot of those posts sometimes are just words and they sound all nice.
Yeah.
But they don't resonate. But I'm happy that this kind of banter has.
Yeah. And deep down, the thing that has me, concerned is, yet while it has me concerned, it has evolved into what we're doing, which is, as I'm going to use the word that you use, transcending. It's like, for me, modern life is very chaotic. It's very confusing. It's very debilitating.
It's very engaging.
Yeah, I mean,
modern life engages the mind constantly, so it keeps you in this next.
And I think this practice is what's going to help us get through the moment, but also transcend the moment, and really, amidst what you thought before you learned this was chaos, we're actually able to enjoy what we're experiencing, because when our moment arrives, to harken back to the other episode, you're done. Lights are off, and while I'm here, I want to be the best version, the best let's say, ambassador for goodness, and as much, let's say, good vibes and good stuff that I can, give others so that they can give it back to me. And I'll stop right now and just say that quote where, a good deed has ripple effects that last for infinity, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
Basically, that feeling and that phrase is what I'm trying to do, so that it may not reach the end of the world, but if we can affect
the people
our
around
circles.
Us. Yeah, and I think that's that's the whole point of this. And it's like Pay It Forward, right? There was a movie called Once, Pay It Forward, and I think it's about that's what you're trying to say is your good deeds could enlighten the next person.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of what. So spiritual teachers kind of say there's people who are teachers, and then there's people who are holders of presence, right? I honestly see myself falling into this holder of presence more than a teacher thing. Holders of presence are people who hold this presence within them and act as a reflection for other people around them, while not trying to inherently just like teach them directly, but be like, hey, everybody around me, I'm going to try to be that example that they, without me telling them how to live their lives, they see there's something different in this one person and how they're acting and how they respond to things and how they digest what's going around, and maybe makes them curious to ask a question to that person. Be like, hey, this thing that you've done, you've changed, what is it with you? And that question, is now an awareness in them, which has been ignited. You've lit the candle for them.
That's great.
Now it's on them to nourish that candle and let it burn.
And how rewarding is it when you see them continuing,
Oh,
as opposed to, all right, ego steps in and says, what are you?
Amazing,
Right?
It's an amazing feeling. And not amazing feeling like, look what I have done. There's a joy when the people around you see and you feel that their karmic energy is at a different level than it was before.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great, and that's the whole point of this. It's just to make if you could show people how to find pure peace and bliss no matter what's going on in their lives.
Yeah. I hope it's reaching the people that are listening. I
if-
hope it's reaching.
If it hasn't, hopefully it's igniting a spark in them to be curious.
Yeah.
And that curiosity, that's how it started for me. For me,
Yeah.
it started out with curiosity, and from that curiosity, it became a willingness to want to go through things that weren't easy in the beginning, were difficult, but that I had this feeling that on the other end there was something greater than what was going on in my mind. But it's got to be nurtured. So this has got like a good diet or a workout program or honing a sports skill. It's got to be a process, and you have to be willing to do the work. Whether it's meditating daily for a minute, whether it's meditating daily for 20 minutes, whether it's being mindful when you're doing daily tasks, whether it's not reacting to somebody who triggers you all the time, hearing them, see that reaction happen in you, right? You don't suppress it. Allow it. Allow that urge to come up that you feel like you're going to scream at this person, but choose not to. Choose to allow it to pass. Now, you're not holding it down, right? Repressing a feeling is different than allowing it. I mean, I tell people, you're allowed to truly feel angry. You can, but it's my choice to be angry.
Yeah.
I could choose to feel sad, but it's my choice to be sad. I could choose to feel happy, but it's my choice to be happy, right? I feel every emotion. I feel anxiety. I feel fear. I feel everything. I just choose, do I want to engage it or not? And when you don't engage it, it tends to, especially the more you do it, comes in and out a lot quicker. Or it doesn't feel as real anymore. It just feels like, hey, I could feel this, but I'm here. And all of a sudden, it hasn't grasped you. It hasn't dug its claws into you. So.
No.
Yeah, I don't want to go too long because it'll be an hour and a half if we keep talking.
Well, thanks again, guys. I hope you're really enjoying this, because I know we do.
Because we are.
Yeah, we enjoy this.
We
so
enjoy
much.
this.
I can't tell you how much joy I get. That's right, I use joy. How much joy I get from doing this. It's a pleasurable moment in my week, and. Thank you again, John. Thank you for having me, and
No
and
problem.
I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely, and that'll be episode 3. So let's close out today with another quiet minute. We'll go silent here, and then I'll just jump in at the end and sign us off. But just a couple deep breaths, everybody. Open eyes, close eyes, however you want to do it. Sitting up, standing up. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. Just being here is an accomplishment in and of itself. So, all right. Very good. All right, guys, we will catch you next time. I'm John Emilio.
And I'm Henry Beltra.
All right. Have a great week. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take
Thank
care.
you, guys.
Bye-bye.